Okay. So these are the problem we identified for a researcher in accessing different kind of literature and in different kind of resources. And so the concept is that we need to know a lot many resources. We already know how to search Google and Google Scholar in a little bit advanced level. Then in this particular class today I am going to expose before you 300 million quality research materials covering the entire universe of knowledge. Obviously, one subset will be belonging to your domain, like data science, genome science, etc., and that you can search freely. And you don't have to roam around here and there. You don't have to run from pillar to post to obtain resources. I will try to give you a handful of resources which very quickly can give you all kind of research material and study materials, because you are still students, PG level. So sometimes you will also need a textbook for your assignment, different kind of projects and student assignment. So I will be talking about all this, but before let us have a theoretical background of this open access resources. What are the different types? How do we people categorize resources? Why we people can why we people do search information? So these are all theoretical backup, and I will be quickly switching to the practical demonstration of different resources. So before starting, let me quote one of my favorite quotation from Dr. Samuel Johnson. Samuel Johnson, you may not be knowing, he is the first lexicographer of the world. That means lexicography means the art of preparing a dictionary. So Dr. Samuel Johnson first created the ever known first ever known dictionary in English language, and right from that period of time, you know the value of of a dictionary as a reference tools. So Samuel Johnson was quoted as like that. This quotation you can read. I am not going to read. What do I mean by this quotation is that knowledge has two facets. What is the knowledge and where is the knowledge? So you as a student, you are learning what is the knowledge, then you will be entering into the frontier level in your job, in your research. So you will become a subject expert in your domain. So you already know what is knowledge in your domain. So in this particular area, before research, before starting your research, as a researcher, you should also know where is the knowledge. And this particular series of class actually devoted to the second facet of the knowledge, that is where is the knowledge. Until and unless what is the knowledge and where is the knowledge is actually integrated like a circuit, then only your knowledge cycle becomes fulfilled and completed. Otherwise, you will be knowing only one half of the knowledge gamut, the other half will be completely unknown to you. So we need to know the second part also, where is the knowledge. And as I said you repeatedly, that every research of any kind, be it a student assignment, be it a journal paper writing, or a full-fledged doctoral dissertation, all starts with an existing piece of information and ends up with a new piece of information, often in documentary form. Documentary form means you are producing your research report in the form of a paper, in the form of a report, in the form of an assignment or a dissertation. So in your entire life, you are of too young, 20, 21 years, almost average. So in this 21 years or 22 years, every knowledge object you have encountered, right from your nursery school days to till PG level, can you imagine, can be divided only into three categories? All kind of information resources you have consulted in your lifetime, all can be categorized into three fundamental groups. A three fundamental categories or groups is slightly different or difficult to understand. There is a difference between the class and the category. Category is basically a fundamental grouping of a given domain. যদি আমি তোমাদেরকে জিজ্ঞাসা করি, ধরো যে কুকড ফুড, রান্না করা খাবার, ক্যান ইউ ক্যাটাগরাইজ? তোমাদের কি উত্তর হবে? রান্না করা খাবারকে যদি তোমাকে বলা হয় তুমি ক্যাটাগরাইজ করো, এবং ক্যাটাগরি মানে হচ্ছে কি, দ্যাট উইল বি মিউচুয়ালি এক্সক্লুসিভ, একটার সঙ্গে অন্যটা ওভারল্যাপ করবে না, তাহলে পারবে করতে বা চেষ্টা করবে? বলো বলো বলো।
বেক করা খাবার হতে পারে, ফ্রাই করা খাবার হতে পারে, সিদ্ধ করা হতে পারে, এরকম ভাবে।
হ্যাঁ, আর কেউ ট্রাই করবে?
নিরামিষ হতে পারে, আমিষ।
তাহলে এরকম দেখো, হ্যাঁ এক্স্যাক্টলি ঠিক বলেছো। দেখো কোনোটাই ভুল নয়, তোমাদের কোনোটারই ভুল নয়, কোনোটাই ঠিক নয়। কেন আমি বলছি? সো you can see that the cooked food can be divided into number of categories. One of your friend talked about the vegetarian food and non-vegetarian food. So the concept of vegetarian and non-vegetarian again differs from, even within the country, from zone to zone. In Bengal we consider egg is a non-veg item, but if you go to South India, egg is very much a vegetarian item. Similar the case with the onion, we consider onion as a non-veg item, and if you go again to south, they are again using onion for even different kind of vegetarian dish. So that is not mutually exclusive, it differs from the country to country, place to place, depending on different kind of socio-cultural issues. Then one of you tried to went for different kind of cuisine. So it's a Mughlai cuisine, it's an Indian cuisine, it's a Thai cuisine, it's a continental cuisine. Again, you see, that is also not quite mutually exclusive. And again, it may differ. So if you see, if you take any kind of chow mein dish in any Indian restaurant, do you think that is actually Chinese cuisine? Not at all. So again, not many different kind of overlapping and deviation occurs. Now, more importantly, someone of you tried to actually explore the more fundamental categories: baked food, roasted food, fried food, boiled food, and so on. More fundamental than, or more exclusive in compare with the vegetarian, non-vegetarian, then cuisine wise, and different other categories. You see, any kind of cooked food, be it vegetarian, non-vegetarian, any cuisine, can be divided only into three fundamental categories: either it is boiled, or it is fried, or it is roasted. No other things. When you are talking about baking, it's basically a deviation or degree of boiling, nothing else. So this is the concept of fundamental categories. If we go by this kind of fundamental concept, that means that is just like a crystal. At the end of it, you are getting the unit, and that again cannot be divided. So here also, way back in 1960, some of the information scientists tried to classify and categorize information resources, and interestingly they said that all kind of information, be it a book, journal, thesis, patent, standard, anything you name it, we have it kind of thing, all can be categorized into three groups. Either it is primary, which gives you the first-hand report of research, or it is secondary, which actually compiles the primary sources in a more accessible format, like abstracting journal, indexing journal, bibliography, and so on, and the tertiary sources, which list all kind of secondary sources in a given domain or in the entire universe of knowledge. And information, just like electron and current, current always flows, or electron always flows against the direction of the current. If current flows from x to y, electron of the material always flows from y to x. So similarly, in case of information flow also, information actually flows from primary to secondary to tertiary, whereas your search must be conducted in opposite direction, from tertiary to secondary to primary. Why I am saying so? So let us do a kind of calculation. Why I am saying so? That your search must be conducted in opposite direction. So tertiary is basically listing or giving your road to the secondary sources. Secondary sources actually leading you to the primary sources. Now suppose you will be getting here the you are having honors degree from different domains, na, or only in computer science? All of you are having your computer science bachelor's, or from different
both of us
domains
are
you are different domains? Okay, so you
Maths,
have an idea about different knowledge domain. Say for example, I am taking for example chemistry as a domain. So in the chemistry, for suppose there are actually more than this, but still you just imagine that let me increase the size slightly. Say 10 to the power 4 number of journals are there in the chemistry alone. So journal is a primary source because it is actually reporting the first-hand research. If your book or textbook is not a primary source, whatever good it may be, it's basically a secondary source because it's a compilation work. It actually depends on information given by different kind of primary resources, and author systematically exposing the subject before the student. So a textbook may be a very good one for very handy for your studying purposes, but it's not giving you the primary sources. So textbook is considered as a secondary source. So journal, I'll be coming with the list of all primary and secondary sources, but first you try to understand the problem as a future researcher. Just imagine, although it may vary from from this data, but I am very weak in math. That's why I am keeping my math simple. Just imagine there are 10,000 journals in the domain of chemistry alone. It's in reality it is something around 12,500 or so on. Now this 10,000 journal, every year they published one volume. You know, the journal published one volume per annum. Now each volume contains number of issues, and issues varies. Okay, let me mute all. I'm getting some noise. Okay, so each journal published one volume per annum. Now the number of issues of against a given volume varies according to the frequency. So journal publishers follow different frequency table. For example, some journals are weekly, like Nature. You must be knowing the name of Nature. Nature is a weekly journal, means 54 issues per annum. Similarly, there are many journals with which has monthly frequency, 12 issues per annum, quarterly frequency, 4 issues per annum, semi-monthly, 6 issues per annum, fortnightly, 24 issues per annum. So it varies. So to keep our math simple again, I am taking, say, on an average, journals having 10 issues per volume. Now each issue contains article. Say again, it may vary from 5 to 15 to 20. Even a special issue may contain 30 articles. That instance is there. So just let us take 10 papers per issue. 10 papers per issue. So at the end of the year, how many articles you are getting? 10 to the power 4, 5, 6. So now it is becoming 10 to the power 6. So 10 to the power 6 means you are already understand that what does it mean for you in a given year. Now suppose you want to make a comprehensive search. For the last 10 years I want to search this. So how many papers now you are basically trying to handle? 10 to the power 7 number of papers. Now suppose you are a researcher or a student in nanotechnology, you are searching all the relevant documents on a given aspect of nanotechnology or nanoscience. Now you see for this 10 to the power 7 number of papers, suppose you want to know what has happened in the last 10 years. From these 10 to the power 7 number of papers, you need to find out 10, 12 most relevant paper. Something like you are searching a needle in the haystack. Have you got my point? And this is the situation in a single domain alone. Now you take different kind of multidisciplinary approach. A student of chemistry may need something from biology, a student of biology may need something from physics, a student of physics may need something from biophysics, because higher science is borderless. People say, previously I was in CSIR, I worked in CSIR as a scientist. The then Director General of CSIR said a very interesting term, Dr. R.A. Maselkar. He was the chairman, director of NCL, National Chemical Laboratory, then became DG CSIR, Director General of CSIR. He said once that future is borderless science. So border we have created, this is mathematics, this is physics, this is chemistry, this is biology. Actually, this is the science, and the language of science is mathematics. Mathematics is not a subject actually. Mathematics is the language of science, and each and every domain you need to know mathematics, in particularly in science. And in data science, every day you are actually realizing this fact that in data science the keyword is not data, the keyword is science. Again, said by the same Maselkar, that when you are talking about data science, do not think that data is the key is the science. So in this borderless science arena, we are getting a huge number of resources every year, and there lies the beauty of the secondary sources. So what happens? All these primary sources, what gives us first-hand research information like periodical, research report, conference proceeding, patent, standards, trade literature, doctoral dissertation, all are condensed and repackaged in different secondary sources like your bibliographic database, indexing services, abstracting and indexing databases. You have already heard the name of bibliographic databases like Scopus, Web of Science, Web of Knowledge, EBSCOhost, in chemistry, SciFinder Scholar, Chemical Abstract Database, Biological Abstract Database, all are secondary information. So they basically index each and every article, or who is the author, what is the title of the paper, where it has been published, that means what is the source of the name of the source journal, volume, issue, and so on, including the abstract. So indexing and abstracting databases, reviews, reference books, textbook, monograph, these are basically based on the primary sources and called as secondary. Then how do I know that these are the secondary sources available in my domain? Maybe in chemistry or in physics or in something else. So there lies the scope of tertiary sources. These are basically directories and listing of secondary sources. Now you can see that organization of information flows from here to here, primary to secondary to tertiary, but your search must be starting from the tertiary. Then you come to identify a list of secondary sources. There you search, and you will be getting the primary sources. So do not jump into primary sources first. Try to find out wherever you are working, whatever domain you are doing your research, try to find out the list of tertiary sources, an array of tertiary sources in your domain. Then try to identify secondary and then primary. So otherwise, you will be getting that kind of problem. Every time you have to search 10 to the power 7 number of papers to get your 10 to 12, 15 relevant papers. So situation is a very complex one, and it is exactly searching a needle in the haystack. And how do I know that this particular model is holding true for the electronic domain or digital domain also? If I ask you a very simple question, but it's not that simple also, can I place Google search engine, what we covered yesterday, Google or Google Scholar, where it will go, primary, secondary, or tertiary? What is your logical guess?
গুগল স্কলারে তো থিসিস পেপার বা রিভিউ দেখায়, তো ওটা প্রাইমারি বা সেকেন্ডারি হবে। মানে যদি
No, it's actually যদি তুমি আরেকটু ফান্ডামেন্টালি ভাবো তাহলে দেখবে এটা কি টার্সিয়ারি সোর্স নয়। হোয়াট ইজ অ্যাকচুয়ালি গুগল ইন্ডেক্সিং? গুগল ইন্ডেক্সিং ওয়েবসাইট, যদি আমি কল্যাণ ইউনিভার্সিটির ওয়েবসাইট দেখি, আমরা যে সমস্ত ডকুমেন্ট প্রডিউস করি, ধরো ডিপার্টমেন্টের সিলেবাস, বিভিন্ন নোটিশ, অর্ডার, এটসেট্রা, রেগুলেশনস, সার্কুলেশন, এই জিনিসগুলি তো প্রাইমারি ডকুমেন্ট। এই ডকুমেন্টগুলি থাকছে ওয়েবসাইটে। সো ওয়েবসাইট ইজ আ কন্টেনার, সেকেন্ডারি সোর্স, আর গুগল ইন্ডেক্স করছে ওয়েবসাইটকে। সো গুগল ইজ আ টার্সিয়ারি সোর্স। So tertiary, when you are searching or using any kind of search agent like Google, so you are using basically a tertiary source. It is actually giving you the list of websites that contains document against your query. Then you click that particular site and you actually go to the primary document in the format of HTML, PDF, doc, etc. So it's a perfectly holding true for entire print domain as well as digital domain. So please remember this particular model, and it will help you in your, even in your student days, it is going to help you. Then comes another fundamental question: why we do people search? কেন আমরা সার্চ করি? কি দরকার সার্চ করার? কি আমাদের অ্যাপ্রোচ, আর্জ, কি জন্য আমরা সার্চটা করছি? সেটা হচ্ছে যে আমরা যদি if we divide entire information sources into three groups, primary, secondary, and tertiary, and I do hope that you are now convinced that documents can be categorized in the according to the nature of their content. Then, according to the nature of the information demand, some information scientists, a group of scientists actually, but the most prominent name is the Melvin Boyd. Melvin Boyd actually classified the information demand of researchers into four groups, and very fundamental one. He proposed that one way back in 70s, but till in this 21st century, it holds equally true. When you are searching something, you have four things in mind, and these are not mutually exclusive. You may have more than one need in mind, but there are fundamentally four needs. Current approach. I know the subject very much. I am a researcher in this domain, but I want to keep myself abreast with the ongoing change. I want to keep myself updated with the ongoing changes. That is called current approach. I know the subject. I don't need everything on this. I have a few basic things with me, but I want to know what happened in my domain or my area of interest in the last 7 days, last 30 days, last 6 months. So that is called current approach. Then comes everyday approach. Before entering into your workplace, be it a professional work or be it a research lab work, you need a set of data to start your work. For example, you imagine the life of a financial analyst. Some of you are doing data science, and definitely I'm sure some of you will be landing into the domain of financial analysis. So suppose you imagine the life of a financial analyst. The moment he or she enters into work at 10 a.m., he or she needs to have a data set related to different kind of stocks, different kind of company related information, to even start with his or her work. So these are the information set he or she needs to start the job of a financial analyst. Similarly, imagine a hardcore scientist working in the lab, again in the lab of chemistry or in the biology. So what he or she is studying, they need to have a set of data related to the chemical properties of the substances they are dealing with, or the biological properties of the substances they are dealing with. So these are the ready-made data set I need to start my work. So that is called everyday approach, and I need those information almost every day. Then comes the exhaustive approach. Yesterday we have covered in detail the steps and procedures of Google searching, different use of different kind of special keywords. Now, when you are searching your Google without any kind of filter, the last four techniques I have shown you, that is nothing but filtering. So if you have no filters, you are searching everything you are getting from Google, on a given topic, on a given set of keywords, then that is called exhaustive approach. I want to know everything against this query. I want to have every piece of information you are having in your database against this particular query. So that is called exhaustive approach. And the last one is very interesting and emerging like anything. And sometimes I, wonder with this geniusness of the Melvin White. Way back in the 70s, he actually imagined the need of this catching up approach. What is a catching up approach? Catching up approach means nowadays you see the rise of interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary research is actually quite visible everywhere in the world. So in this era of interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary research, you may be an expert in chemistry, you are working in the domain of biochemistry, you know nothing about biology. So as a chemist, you are a domain expert in the domain of chemistry. You are trying to do a multidisciplinary kind of thing which involves some biological principles and laws, but you are a layman in biology. So how quickly you can pick up the fundamental laws, principles, groundbreaking event from the domain of biology. So that requires a different set of resources like annual reviews, advances, trend reports, and different kind of other analytical reports. So these are as a whole called I+C product, information analysis and consolidation product, and that is actually the catching up approach. I am an expert in a domain X. I want to do something in the domain Y to have a cross section of X and Y, XY. So I need to pick up skills from the domain Y very quickly. So that approach is completely different from the earlier three approaches, and you need a complete separate set of documents for it. So that's why at the end of this, so we can having a beautiful matrix kind of thing, 3 types of resources and 4 types of approaches. If any point of time, if you think that there are more than another category in information resource domain, or maybe more than another category in the information demand theory, so please tell me. I want to have your input if you find anything else in the categorization of resources and the categorization of demand. So this is basically the matrix of for a researcher. You are searching either this and for either of these approaches. Now, there is nothing wrong in this particular theory, but the problem started somewhere else. So, before going into the details of the problem, let me give you the concept of open access movement and open knowledge movement. I will just give you definition now. Later on, I will come into the details, and I will show you the resources. So what is an open knowledge object? How it is different from a traditional knowledge object? Knowledge object, I mean anything. It can be data, scientific data, historical data, geographic data, content like journal paper, report, books, music, general information. In a democratic country, government is the largest producer of information of any kind related to different kind of welfare project, rules and regulation, and so on. So these are called general information. So content can be anything, but it must be available in open way, open submission, open peer review, open access without any discrimination. But the most important part is the access is open. There will be no discrimination. There will be no paywall. That means I need to pay to view this particular paper or object. So this is completely free, socially, legally, and technically. That is the very philosophy of open access. 98% of the research anywhere in the world is publicly funded. Publicly funded, what does it mean? That means your government is supporting that research. And what is the government? How government is getting money? It is the taxpayers' money, public money. So when we are doing a particular area of kind of research, your research is publicly funded, but unfortunately, the moment you publish a paper, the copyright goes to the publisher. And government, although hello,
Hello.
I'm still linked. Okay, I'm linked. My computer is saying something panic button. I don't know. Uh, Let me close this for 2 3 minutes. I'm coming back again. You don't go away. Okay. I have a problem here in the machine now. To understand Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Okay. So extremely sorry that so can you remember where I was actually? What is the last thing I was talking about?
Categorizing resources.
That is long back.
কারেন্ট অ্যাপ্রোচেস ওই পার্টটা ছিল,
Uh,
এক্সহস্টিভ কারেন্ট অ্যাপ্রোচেস।
okay, okay. I understood. Actually, something wrong happened here. I changed my laptop. So now let me share it again. Recording is still going on. My claim host. Anyway, let's start. Later on, I will solve this. You can see the screen now. Sharing
Yes,
is
sir. We
what
are
I'm
able to see.
Just a minute. I am trying to do this presentation part here. Let me copy that one first. I go for the presentation mode? Okay. Don't know, something came, something never came. Anyway, let's move towards slide part. I will be managing later on. Let me start some kind of demonstration part. So what I was talking that information can be categorized into many groups, and your approach is actually into three groups, and your approach can be of four types, and that can be a perfect matrix. But this model actually holds true for both the print domain as well as electronic domain. But the problem of this research communication process actually started. The data sets I will be showing you later on, because something went wrong with my machine. I don't understand what happened. I need some time to handle it. But let us try to do what we are having with us. So today I am going to show you, introduce to you with some of the tertiary tools in the research domain. uh, from any discipline, you are working for any discipline like genome science, data science, nanoscience, all you will be benefited through these tools, and these are all available freely in the open access domain. Open access I will be again explaining you in the next day, but today you just try to find out this tool, try to be acquainted with this kind of research support tools that can give you data free of cost, both research object as well as research data free of cost. First one, what I am trying to show you, that how you can understand that what are the open access journals available in your domain. Open access journals are called bold path of open access. This you can access free of cost and up to the full text level. Now someone please report that whether you can see my browser in Doage in my browser or not. Then I will be coming. Can you see this
Yes, sir.
directory of open access journal? Okay.
Yes.
So this is the first tertiary tool I am going to introduce with you. So this can help you to understand how many journal papers are there. If you want to search by article, that is also possible. It includes 11,500 36 journal without APC. That means you can also publish without any article processing charge. Altogether, there are 16,000 plus journals and 57 lakhs of papers, full text level. So if you want to know that how many journals are there which supports say data science, so you can search in this way. Say I have checked the journal and searched the data science. So 318 journals are basically dealing some facets of data science. Data science is not a full-fledged discipline, but different journal which have included data science in their focus. You can it can be listed from here. Then as it's a global platform, you also need to take care about the language. I want only English language because rest of the language I don't know. So if you can filter this, if you can filter this, it will now give you around 308 index journal in English language. Now any of these journal, if you want to publish any of this particular journal, you can go, you can check the website, you can check the licensing agreement. These are all available under Creative Commons licenses. Different kind of licensing system. What we will be studying in the next day. First, today we are viewing the tools and techniques. Then we will be knowing the backend principles of this. Just remember that these are all available. All open access journals are available. Different Creative Commons licensing. The CC stands for Creative Commons. So first two is CC BY. Then if we go to the next, this some may be available CC BY. Say for example this one CC BY NCND. That means this journal is available free of cost. Anyone can access, but for non-commercial NC and for non-derivative, you cannot utilize any of the articles as it is basis in your retrieval system, in your learning system. So these are called ND, stands for non-derivative. So there are 6 variants of Creative Commons. I will be learning tomorrow. So this way you can identify number of journals, and suppose you want to search something in your domain. Say for example, I am interested in sentiment analysis. Sentiment analysis you must be knowing as a student of data science. So I'm searching now sentiment analysis in as article. How many articles are there? I can always switch over from journals to article. I click articles. Now the article interface will be coming. I am searching sentiment analysis, say all fields. So now you can see 879 indexed articles are there. All are in English language because I have given language domain, language filtering. Then different domains it belongs to, and you can always have the full text data. So suppose this full text paper you want to have it, so you can click read online. So the moment you click read online, the full text will be uploaded here. If you are interested to download the entire paper, you can see here the download PDF link, and you can click it, the PDF full. You can view full text, you can download full text. So otherwise you can see that in most of the cases, the biggest problem for a researcher is that after spending lot many hours, after giving lot many efforts, you are still hitting the paywall. Half of the document you have retrieved are basically copyrighted material. So internet is a kind of menu card, is a restaurant where menu card is available, but not the food stuff. So open access is giving you both the menus. Menus are basically different kind of search interfaces, as well as the food stuff. If you want to view the full text of the paper, if you want to download the paper, so the entire paper will be uploaded. You can check it, you can read it. So how many articles you are getting from DOAJ in this way? 57 lakh. So DOAJ, who developed it? In fact, all the tools I am going to show you here today are basically developed by some universities, or a group of universities often came together, or some kind of group of researchers, and all are open access, free of cost, right from your smartphone, right from your laptop, without paying any single paisa to anyone. You can access it. So this is DOAJ. You please explore how many journals and articles can help you as a researcher. Then I am moving to the next, one that is called this is called the gold path of open access. So when researchers are publishing their paper directly in open access journal, and these 16,000 plus journals all are quality journals, because if a journal is actually listed in DOAJ, that means it has actually passed 21 parameters, that is called DOAJ quality seal, and then only that can be listed in DOAJ. So no predatory journal are included in DOAJ listing. All are quality open access journal from different parts of the world. Now second is that called the green path, and this is basically the tertiary tools in the gold path, and that's why I said that as a researcher, tertiary tools are very important to you. Now there are another prominent category in open access, that is called green path. The concept of green path differs from the gold path. Gold path means as a researcher you are directly publishing your paper in an open access journal. Green path means you are publishing your paper in a commercial journal, but one copy of your paper, either the preprint version or the postprint version. Preprint means the version of the paper before submission to the editorial board, and postprint means after publication you are changing something in the title, a few words, a few sentences you are adding in the abstract, a few sentences you are adding in the conclusion, that becomes your postprint. So either preprint or postprint you can archive in an open access repository, and that can be available to the global users free of cost. And this is completely legal, and this is called Goldberg. I am publishing a paper in a commercial journal, either preprint or postprint, depending on the publisher policy. I can upload in an open access repository, and that can be accessed by anyone of the world. That is called the green path. So how can I know as a student of computer science what are the different open access repositories which already holds faculty publication, thesis, etc. How many of such repositories are there? So University of Nottingham has developed a magic tool that is called opendoor.org. Open Door. Door stands for Directory of Open Access Repositories. And this is actually developed by University of Nottingham. Later on, it is now handled by GISC Group, Joint Information Science Group. That is the highest body, like our UGC in India. So GISC is in UK. So GISC is now managing Open Door. What it does, it is giving, it's a tertiary tool in the domain of green path. All kind of open access repositories in different subject domains, you can have a list here. Now, how can I know? If I click the advanced search button here, it will allow me to go by subject wise. So here you can see all the subjects of the world are given here. Any of the subject you can pick up. For example, I am interested in computer science. So this is computers and IT. The moment I click, select it and click the search. So all the repositories dealing with computer science, data science, etc. will be coming up. How many of them are there? Altogether 201 number of repositories. Now imagine on an average each of these repositories includes around 30,000 of faculty publication, different kind of intellectual property of the university. In fact, these are basically developed by different universities individually. So this 201 number of repositories you are having, anyone you can go and access. Say for example, academic research repository of some university. It is non-English. Say this one. So all the faculty publication in the domain of computer science will be, and this is actually built on the top of open source software called DSpace. We are using in libraries developed by MIT and HP Lab together. So DSpace is an open source institutional repository management software, and you can see here this is the metadata. And if you want to go to the home page of this one, I can go. This is the repository URL. If I click, so I can go there, I can search that. So this is the ERAC institutional repository. You can see here also I can search. Say for example, I am searching by data science. So in this way, it is giving you a listing of all the institutional repositories. You can, and these are all OAIP image compatible. Some of you can take a project as you are dealing with data science, that how this repository content can bring together to form a central index. And if some of you are interested in that kind of project, my help is always assured. I will teach you how OAIP image harvesting can work, how OAIP, through OAIP image verbs and protocols, we can fetch metadata in a central index and create a central repository searching system like thing. So this individual searching process can be overcome. Now you can see these are the project reports, technical paper related to data science from this university, and you can have it. So in this way, another 30 lakhs of documents you are getting from Open Door. Now, if you are talking about this thesis, you already know sometimes a master thesis, doctoral thesis can help you a lot in pursuing research, particularly in the matter of literature review. PhD, most of the PhD dissertation includes a full chapter on literature review, very rich literature review. So if you want to access, want to have access all kind of PhD thesis all over the world, you already know Shodhganga, that is our national thesis repository. Similarly, different countries have their own thesis repositories. For example, for UK it is Ethos, for US it is NDLTT, for Australia it is Trove, and so on. So how it is possible for a researcher to roam around all the national thesis repositories of the entire world? Not possible. So the tool I am suggesting you is a single window search interface for entire open thesis and dissertation. What it does, it again follows an hub and spoke model. So hub is the OATD, open access thesis and dissertation. Spokes are basically all the national thesis repository. Those are OIPMH compatible. Metadata they have harvested in a central index, and we can search from a single window search services. Now you can see here, if we want to know how many theses are there in the domain of data science, I can either search, but this is a very generic one, but still I am searching the research in data science. Now, what is the difference between Shodhganga search and OATD search? In Shodhganga, you will be getting data only from Indian universities, but here from the entire world. Now you see the magic. And how many theses available? Around this one, 5330227. Is it 5 crore 3 lakhs 30,000? So almost 5 crore plus theses are available. 53, 5 crore 30 lakhs. So if I search this one, so all 5 crore 30 lakhs of objects it will search and it will tell me how many full text theses are available. And if you go by the left hand side, you can see there are not many filterings, are there. So this lot many filterings you can go PhD level, MS level, doctoral dissertation level, and so on. So this it's a very handy one. You can click cite, so automatically it will create different reference management style. We will be covering reference management in the last two classes. So just there are different styles categories, and in any style category you can copy the reference and you can utilize in your thesis, because every time you are doing a technical writing you need to give references. And suppose if you are consulting this particular thesis, you need to give reference for this thesis. And referencing are basically done through different citation sites: APA, American Psychological Association, Chicago, MLA, IEEE, Nature, and so on. So this, it supports that one. And you can, if you click this one, you can have the full text of the thesis. No matter, you don't have to remember from where it is coming. It will actually handle. What does it mean? The server is not working. Let me try another one. Oh, that the handle server is down somehow. Okay, no issue. If you can go for this one, say. So this is coming from. So what happened earlier? So it actually depends on a handle server for unique identification that is somehow down. So this is coming directly from the institute, and now it is the abstract, this is the full text, and the entire thesis you can download. You can download the entire thesis. So this is the advantage. You are getting almost 5 crore thesis in one place. Now another tool I am going to show you today is basically related to. So we have studied the green path, gold path, and this OATD. So you see, this is a search engine, academic search engine, base-search.net. academic search engine developed by again a university. So as I said, that most of the cases universities are creating the things. So this is called base search, and you can imagine, you already know that how we have tinkered Google searching, but you can see here how advanced is this particular base search engine. So here it is giving you 266 millions of resources. It includes the gold path, so all the journal articles available in the open access. It includes the green path, all the repositories in a single place. It includes theses, it includes books, and many more. So if you come book base, it is in a single place you are getting 266 million resources. Now suppose I am searching by still that sentiment analysis. Now up to this point there is no difference between base and Google, because Google is by default searching the entire document, base is also by default searching the entire document. But you can see the difference after your first search. And here you can see it is developed by Bielefeld University Library and powered by open source software, Solar, Apache Solar as a search engine, and Viewfind as a discovery tool. So now, if I search, you see the magic. So it is searching all 266 million resources, entire document, but easily you can switch over to, you know, you can easily switch over to the title, author, or subject. You can remember, you can do title search in Google, but not the author search or subject search. Here you can search by author, search by subject. First in importance. Now suppose I am restricting this sentiment analysis in title. So it will now give me all our academic resources, 10,000 plus documents. And you see the difference between the Google retrieval and base retrieval. In Google, until and click and check, you simply do not know what that particular document contains, whether it is relevant for you or not. But here you can see right from here the change in the display format, the rich display format. You can understand this is open access. This is the symbol for open access developed by UNESCO. And these are description. And I can take a decision by reading this description, currency, etc., whether I want to see the full text or not. In this way, each and every one is actually enriched with this kind of thing. Anything you want in full text, suppose in this open access domain, I can click here and I can go. And in the right hand side, you can see how many filters are there. Who are the most prolific institute that produce this document. Then division by the year of publication, and you can see how data science publication is increasing every year from 962 in 2016 to 1913 in 2020. Document type, I want only conference, article, text, book chapter. Then access type, I want only open access. And even license type, as I said, different type of Creative Commons licensing is there, and you can select the license. So a lot many filtering techniques are available. You can click here and can have your full text document. So this is the full text document available in sentiment analysis, and you can read it here. You can download, you can check how many people actually viewed, how many people downloaded, and you can download the full text and so on. So this is a completely foolproof system. Most of the cases you can get it. And the beauty of base is that the advanced search level. If you come to the advanced search level, you can see it's really advanced. You can pick up any metadata, title, author, subject, etc. You can pick up right from here. By default, all document types will be selected, but you can uncheck and check selectively. I need only journal. Then I can say I need only open access. I don't need non-open access. I can uncheck it. In Google, you can see we can restrict in a given country. Here you can restrict in a given continent, Asia. And here you can go for a range search. Say I want data from 2010 to 2020. Now, in this restrictive, matter, say I want only journal and book both. I want to search sentiment analysis again, and this time I want to search it in title. Now you see in this restrictive advanced level of operator I have given, so it will first convert the entire advanced level operation into textual search query. So as I said that last day some of you actually answered, asked a question that all in title will work for everything or not. No, I said no, because you see the concept is says here it is using TIT for title. So TIT colon sentiment analysis, and document type, we have given journal and book. Then range search, year this to year that, access type. Now you see 253 documents written against this very specific query, which is quite impossible to frame in a multi-billion-dollar search engine like Google. So try your best search engine today itself. Apart from that, you can browse also. For example, browse by document type, browse by access type, browse by call number. In a library, we arrange books according to their class number. So the similar kind of situation you can have it. If I click Dewey Decimal Classification, most of the Indian libraries follows this particular classification. If you click, it will give you the first order division. So this is called the first order division. Computer, philosophy, and so on. So I'm interested in computer science. If I click, it will give me the second order division in computer science. And within bracket, it will show me that how many, documents are available against this. So 00 is computer science and systems. So this is the third order division. So data processing and computer science, computer programming and program data, spatial computer method, and so on. Suppose I am clicking any one of these. So it says me there are 3,06,799 documents available. Or if I know the DDC number of my document subject, I can directly search here. Suppose some of you are coming from different disciplines. Suppose some of you are from zoology. You want to know how many documents are there in the domain zoology. Class number of zoology is 570. I can simply search DDC colon 570. So you can search internet to know the main class. You can search Dewey main class for zoology, Dewey main class for chemistry. It will give you the Google data card will give you the data, and here you can see 7,89,000 documents available in zoology. Now, if I want to see how many are in physics, DDC colon 530. So in this way, you better try today itself. Otherwise, you don't understand the way it works. The gold path, the green path, Doage, Open Door, OATP, and base. These 4 tools we have covered today. Rest of the tools and theories we will be covering. Again on the dates I have given, possibly again on 13th. I don't remember 13th and 14th. So 13th again I will be taking the class on these documentary resources. 14th, and if required another day, we will be dealing with the reference management, and my part will be covered by this one. So I am now stopping sharing, and so if you have any question, otherwise we can close it today.
স্যার আমরা কি কোনো মেটেরিয়াল পাবো এটা নিয়ে, মানে স্ট্রাকচারড ওয়েতে পড়ার জন্য?
মেটেরিয়াল বলতে আমি আমার পিপিটি যেভাবে তোমাদেরকে প্রতিদিনকারটা পড়াচ্ছি, ক্লাস 1, ক্লাস 2, ক্লাস 3 করে ভেঙে নিয়ে, সেই পুরো পিপিটিটা আমি দিয়ে দেবো পড়ানো শেষ হওয়ার পর। রেকর্ডিং গুলো পাচ্ছ, যে কনসেপ্ট গুলো বলছি সেইগুলো প্রচুর মেটেরিয়াল ইন্টারনেটে অ্যাভেলেবেল। এই যে তোমাকে বেস দেখালাম, এখান থেকে প্রচুর মেটেরিয়াল পাবে। যে কনসেপ্ট গুলো আমি বলছি, ওপেন অ্যাক্সেস রিলেটেড, ইনফরমেশন ক্যাটাগরিজ, আর পিপিটিতে তো অবশ্যই পাচ্ছ। কিন্তু এই মুহূর্তে একটা দুটো চেষ্টা করব যদি একটা আউটলাইন দেওয়া যায় কি কি কভার করলাম, টেক্সচুয়াল 7-8 পাতার মতো, সেটা আমি দিয়ে দেবো তোমাদের।
আচ্ছা স্যার, থ্যাংক ইউ।
You are getting a 10-page summary note, the entire PPT, more than 120 slides, and the recordings of the classes. Okay.
ওকে স্যার।
And if you have any question, any difficulties in accessing the tools what I have shown today, please report me on 13th. And on 13th, I will again, introduce with you lot many other resources and lot many other automatic tools that can help you in your research and study. So that's all for today. We are closing the session.